Welcome to the Human Nature Channel. I'm your host, mtamsula, also known as Daddy Baby on Twitter. And what am I doing here? Well, I'm not doing the video I planned on doing. I found out that Hunter UK has passed away. So I'm going to do an in memoriam for him. Yesterday I'm on YouTube and I'm looking in my queue and I see a new video from Mission Fantastic. That's Mike Turber's channel. So I go over and I'm watching the video, and what Mike was doing was he was upbraiding Daryl. 10:05 here. Yeah, him. There was this long post from Daryl where he mentions that Hunter UK had passed away and was going on about his relationship with Hunter. And Mike is calling BS on everything Daryl is saying. He's accusing Daryl of hyping whatever kind of relationship the two of them had. But I'm still having a tough time getting over the shock of hearing that Hunter is no longer with us. Last Friday, I posted a new video, first in a long time, and I mentioned Hunter. And I called him the pulse of the Las Vegas shooting truth community. And he was. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I knew the guy well. We had exchanged pleasantries in comment sections. He did a live stream one time, and I was in the chat box, and when I showed up, he said, "Hey, Alex is here." So, I like to think we had a good rapport. And here is what I think made him important in the LVS truth community, because I can't think of anybody else doing this, but he brought depth to our understanding of hotel security with his experience installing hot SOS systems in various hotels. It was a nuts and bolts side to hotel security and the catastrophic failure of hotel security at Mandalay Bay is really at the center of this story. I listened to a lot of videos by Hunter, and you could hear the incredulity in his voice at how could this happen. Lengthy discussion about Jesus Campos, 80-minute dawdle from the time they got the ping that there was an open door on the 32nd floor, and like 80 minutes later he finally gets up there. Oh, and he just happens to be at a crossroads of history too. Yeah. Depth is important in any area. It actually makes you a better consumer of information. Now, I follow this guy named Brad Johnson. I mentioned him in the last video too. Ex-CIA station chief. His organization is Americans for Intelligence Reform, and I'll tell you what, that's something I can get behind, because when you look at the FBI failure to explain Las Vegas, Brad is a natural ally. I'll put that in context. But because he's an ex-CIA guy, right? He sees things in terms of operations. Now, the reason I'm bringing up Brad is he has talked about the LVS on a couple of different occasions. Actually, the last time he brought it up was the Nashville bombing, okay? So, here's the thing about Brad. He has it in his head that there's a second shooter. And he has it in his head that the second shooter is in room 32-134. That's what Brad says. Okay? And again, he seems to think that the adjoining door between 32-134 and 1-35 was shut while the fuel tanks were being shot at. Obviously, Brad has never looked at the lock interrogation report. So I'm sitting there going, well, nice try, Brad. And I actually brought this up in the comments section of his last YouTube video where he talked about LVS. I said, look, Brad, you're kind of missing this side of it, because you can't really say what the state of the door between those two rooms, actually two doors, you can't say what the state of those doors were because it's not in the lock interrogation report. There are no sensors in that door. Doors could have been open, doors could have been closed. We have no idea, okay? So simply saying, well, that door was closed and had to be breached by the police, therefore there must have been a second shooter in there. And I'm like, that's too complicated. It's actually a lot simpler than that. Stephen Paddock is in room 32134. He fires at those fuel tanks. He fails to hit at what he wanted. So what does he do? He just says, well, I'm done with this. Shuts the door behind him because he has no intention of playing with that stuff anymore and just continues with the mass shooting. So if you have an LTR, if you have a lock interrogation report in front of you, that all sorts of falls apart. But then there's an even bigger problem because, like I said, Brad is putting a second shooter in that room. And if you go to the lock interrogation report, this is Hunter UK territory, you see that I think it's about 40 minutes before the shooting starts. There's no activity at either hotel room door. Nothing. And then after the shooting, it's another 15 minutes before the ad hoc SWAT team gets up there and does the explosive breach. Nothing happens with those doors. So if there was a second shooter, how does he get out? Okay, going back to early videos that I did when I was a little more speculative than I am now, I actually did what you call a reducio ad absurdum, where I would start with, all right, let's say there is a shooter in that room. How does he get out? I played with all sorts of different ways, and they were all absurd. I mean, maybe there's a remote possibility if you could somehow get specialty equipment in that room, you could get out, but I don't see any evidence of it. What I see is at least Paddock is the sole participant in the shooting, both rooms. Any other speculation falls apart very quickly. So that was because of Hunter. Because of the expertise he shared with us, because of how he took us through things. I can sit down and I can look at an ex-CIA guy like Brad Johnson. I say, hey, Brad, you might want to rethink this position, okay? With the loss of Hunter, I feel like I lost a teacher. And that's what I have to say about him. So anyway, here is Alex making videos again, and I'm going up to the farm later, okay? And I'm going to do the video up there I originally planned to do. Have a good one.